Welcome to the Tarot Tapestry, a weaving of self-discovery, where three tarot mavens put their heads and hearts together to offer their wisdom and insights about the tarot. We hope that you find this helpful in your personal journey to self-discovery and growth.
Join us as we explore ways to use tarot for self-reflection and self-correction.
Together, we'll discover new ways to use tarot to weave threads of understanding into the tapestry of your life. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Tarot Tapestry. And today we have the whole crew with us. We've got Angie and Linda and myself working together. And today we will be talking about the new moon in Cancer. And Linda is going to start us off.
Well, hello. I went to the Moonology Deck yesterday to pull some cards, and the first card I pulled was, believe it or not, the new moon in Cancer. And
interesting.
So how direct is that? I've been listening to some podcasts, and I've been just doing some reading and stuff myself, and it's kind of an interesting time. And also because I have a grandson whose birthday is on the 20th, and he's very much Cancer. When he was younger, whenever you asked him what he wanted to do when he got bigger, he wanted to be a rescue diver for the Coast Guard. So he was very much into swimming in water and stuff like that. Didn't work out, but that's what he would say to you. And now he's got two kids and very much into family and, being a dad and that kind of thing. So he is definitely a Cancer. So the book, The New Moon, the Moonology for the New Moon in Cancer, it talks about new starts. And new starts coming in your private life, whether it's a member of your family, whether you're getting a roommate, or whether you're moving, or trying to move forward with something special in your private life. This card is something that you can turn to as a message that you can do it. If you've been neglecting your family or things have been kind of pulling you away from it, it's a good time to reconnect. Or if you've been neglecting yourself, it's time to nurture yourself and take care of yourself. And if you're feeling a lot of insecurity, that's something that you could work on under this new moon as well. And so additional meanings or additional messages could be to let someone get closer to you, to have a new cycle that could be starting for your child or for your children. And it's time to review your goals and see if any of them have changed. And as well as doing some meditation and or spending time near water. Cancer is all about water. And I think we all know, sitting next to a mountain stream or by the ocean when the tides come in, or even just a calm lake, just sitting next to that water, you can smell it, the smell of the water, the salt water, or even the lake water. It has a specific scent. And you can, even as you walk out of your car, if you go to a park that has a lake and get out of your car, you can just kind of tell that you're near water. And it's just, to me, it's really very calming just to even a calm lake, just hear that little lapping of the water on the shore. It's just very, very calm and very healing. So I pulled that card. And then, as I usually do, I pulled a card to go with it. And it was just the new moon. So the moon in general. So we've got new moon happening all over the place here.
The moon is very moony.
The moon is very moony and it's very new. And so it talks about the new moon is basically a new start. And it says a yes coming your way. And for the author says this is one of the most auspicious cards in the deck. It's very positive and it suggests that something new and exciting is developing. And for me, I've got some things on the horizon that are coming about in the next few weeks, and I'm trying really hard not to project things onto them because I just want to let them unfold and to try to just be as prepared as I can for what might happen. I'm just kind of trying to be that open vessel. And if you look at the new moon, it's just it's almost like a black hole in the sky because you can't see it. When it just starts to come new, you can kind of see, and then you can see that dark orb a little bit. And so I'm trying to just be that sort of receptacle for things to happen and things to grow without pushing too much of, well, I want it to be this way, or I want it to be that way, or I'm worried it won't be, or it could be, or I could, this could, just all those things that when you're trying to plan something new flood into your head. And I'm trying to just let those go and just be and let it happen, which is not always the easiest thing in the world when you're used to being the one in charge or whatever. So
I'm working on that right now too, just letting things be as they are. And when I start to like whirl in my head, just uh reminding when I notice it, because you don't always notice it when you're doing it, but when I notice that
right,
I'm, caught in negative self-talk or some sort of walking in circles mentally,
yeah,
I say out loud, I reclaim my power from this useless thought form, and it sounds
perfect.
very like, um, I don't know, dramatic, but it sort of, I mean, and it sort of is, because these are like things that obviously have, just kind of go on in the background a lot of the time. So it is a big deal when
Well,
you notice
it
it and
is
say,
it is
I'm
okay
done
to
with
be
that.
dramatic. It's okay to be dramatic, especially when you're alone in your house and you're like, hey,
Yeah,
take control of
yeah,
this thing. What's going on?
exactly.
Like Cher and Moonstruck,
Snap
snap
out of
out
it.
of it.
Yeah. It's
So
like oh gosh, okay, my brain just jumped to a completely different thing. The tarot card associated with Cancer is the Chariot, which I like because the Chariot, the little guy is in his little box sort of, and it looks very sturdy and hard on the outside, but he's just a little fella in there. It doesn't look like he's got any weapons or anything, and just like a crab who has a hard shell, but they're squishy on the inside you know um I've never, I guess I never know, I'm sure I've heard it, but it never occurred to me in that particular fashion how they're related, just like in that one way.
yeah.
um
Well, it was really interesting because I went then after I did the Moonology cards, I went and kind of looked up tarot cards that kind of correspond with the new moon or Cancer in the new moon. And it was obviously the moon, which does have a little, not crab, but a lobster
yeah.
in there with the dogs. And, he's like coming out of the water trying to grab the dogs as they're howling at the moon. And also, it did have the chariot for moving forward while trying to balance your emotional needs. You're
Yeah,
trying to harness those, those sphinxes down there on the traditional card. You're trying to harness those. You're trying to and because again, when we think about the major arcana and it's the 7 card at the end of the first line, it's going to be moving into that next line, which is higher development. So you're trying to get a hold of your emotions, grow up a little bit and move forward, and then you move into strength in the other cards. But the other cards I talk about is a high priestess for intuition, for nurturing, for knowing, the Empress again, family, feminine creativity, mothering, if you want to go that far. And then the Four of Cups. The Four of
ooh,
Cups for some rest and for some emotional reassessment and for, refilling your cups, and also to be available because it's got the little popcorn hand. You,
right.
the cup to be available maybe for some more inspiration or for some synthesis as you work in your own mentation and you synthesize and work through your things. Maybe you come up with a new way of doing things or how to handle the emotions that you've been feeling and maybe feeling sort of overwhelmed by. And this can, if you take a little respite and let yourself get your cups filled, you can come to a conclusion on how to better handle those things.
Wonderful. Yeah, I like that. And the Chariot too, with the motion, and Cancer being such an emotional sign, and it's also a cardinal sign, which means it starts things.
Yeah.
So you're in your Chariot, and this to me always kind of says, I'm leaving home, or I'm heading out on this new path, and you're not actively doing the whole time. Like if somebody were to look at you sitting in your Chariot, you're not doing any of the work. It's the sphinxes pulling you. But to keep like you said, an open mind and to be aware of what's going on internally, emotionally. You don't have to show it to everybody else. It's okay. You don't have to, be an oversharer, but you need to be very honest and aware of how you're actually feeling on the inside so that your sphinxes know which way to take you.
Right, exactly. And that sometimes that can be really hard. It can be just as hard to be honest with yourself as it is to be honest with other people. And the other thing I pulled out, because it is the summer solstice and we have the longest day in the summer, we're moving into summer. I pulled out the sun, because even though Cancer is associated with the moon and watery and stuff, but the time of year, it's very bright, it's very warm, there's a lot of light being shown on things. And I think if we look at the sun, there's also not my favorite card because I'm not into hot and heat and all that,
Yeah.
but there is a quality of innocence with the child on the horse. And there's a quality of just shining light on things and bringing things out of the dark. Not that the moon is really about hiding stuff, but it can be about illusions that you have sometimes in your head that maybe aren't true. And if you put a little light on it, you begin to realize, oh, I've had the wrong idea about this all along. And maybe I need to start looking at this in a different way and healing it or letting go of it or just processing it so that I feel better. There's nothing wrong with that.
Wow, you guys have taken everything and spoke about it, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to talk about now? You guys did a fantastic job, but I'm gonna just speak to what you just said, Linda, with the summer solstice. I believe it's on Saturday. Um, and so I am doing a summer solstice circle for the symposium for this summer solstice summit. And I am using like the energy of the sun and the chariot for the meditation. And, what I loved was looking at the sun as representing your like inner flame, right? That flame that never dies, it's always there. Um, and how when we allow ourselves to look at that inner flame and kind of decide, well, what passions and desires do I have? Who do I want to be in this world? Right? What is it that I want to do in this world? And looking at the sun as representing, like you said, illuminating that, right? Bringing that to the surface, being able to show, where do we want to go in life? Like, what is my path? I want to eventually reach this authentic self, right? My true identity. And the sun enables us to like shed a bigger light and maybe get more clarity on what we want to do and where we want to go. And then you can look at the chariot as like that sacred vehicle that takes you there. So it takes this, I now have this clarity on where I want to go. And the chariot's like, all right, just jump on in and we're going to go. And it's like, you have control over the chariot. There are no reins. I mean, I know that I've been using the Thoth deck and I really studied this chariot card and I absolutely loved it. And also in the Rider Waite, there's no reins. You're not holding any reins. And like Angie had said, it really comes from the inside, right? It's your inside that's shining out and sort of giving those sphinxes the direction on where to go. But it's not only just about like that willpower and that determination. Like you said, Angie, you need to have that balance between your head and your heart. It's like emotional regulation in order to help that chariot maneuver around, all those obstacles that get in the way, and it doesn't have to be a constant motion. I think you had mentioned this, Angie, before that you can just take that time to like stop, right? I'm going to stop the chariot and we're going to rest for a moment because I need to reassess where I'm going or what I'm doing. And then I can start taking action again, to go to move forward with it. So I like using like the sun and the chariot, like that energy together to kind of help. And I really loved how I go to this one website, and I'll put it in the show notes if anybody is interested in it, that talks a lot about the Thoth and all of the cards. And he does a wonderful job describing all of the symbols in the card. And I loved the idea of the armor that the charioteer wears, because it's an armor that protects you from the outside world, right? It's a the sense of protection, but that can also be looked at, you know what? Sometimes I need to stop, just like a hermit crab, right? Sometimes I need to just stop, go back into my shell, put my armor on, and just think about how I'm feeling, think about what's going on, reassess, take a break, take a rest, like you were saying, Linda, and then boom, I can keep going forward. And then he makes another reference to the visor on the top part of the armor, which I just found to be like fascinating. So just give me 2 seconds to find it. Where is it? Where is it? Okay. The visor covers the face, right? And Crowley says, no man may look upon his face and live, right? So it's like, what does that mean? Um, so he talks about how the seeker, oh my goodness. So it's basically how when you have this suit of armor and when you're on this chariot and you are moving forward and you are reaching your goal and you're doing the things that you have wanted to do, when you reach that point, you have changed. An old part of yourself has died and a new part of yourself has been born. So you think about that visor and when he says, that you look upon the face, that no man may look upon his face and live, is just that idea that when we make changes in our life and when we are following the path that we were meant to follow, parts of us die, and then there's a new part of us that's living and moving forward. And that's kind of the bigger umbrella for change, right? That's what change means. Old parts of us are going away, they're dying, and new parts, not even new parts. I think it's what our deep soul, what that inner flame is really saying, like our soul contract, you'll hear people talk about all the time. It's that part of us that's now surfacing. It's like old parts, maybe old parts of the ego are dying, and this new part of us is now emerging. I just needed to say that because I just loved
I
how
love
this
that.
I
It's
loved
like
how he
it's
talked
like
about it.
talking.
If you've ever seen those time lapse photographs of a seed, the seed is in the little thing and it's got a cover on it, and the cover opens up and it goes away. It goes into the dirt, and then the bud comes out, the leaf comes out, and it does, and then the leaves come out, and then the bud comes out, and then it opens up, and its little case goes away, and then either the flower comes out, and then the fruit starts, if it's fruit or whatever, and then that flower goes away and dies, and then the fruit comes. So every time you get more mature and have more growth and get to a new stage, part of you falls away and it's no longer necessary. I don't, you can say it dies, but I think it's just no longer necessary. Like you're closed in with your seed thing that protects the seed, and when you don't need to be protected anymore and you grow, that goes away, and when you bud, that goes away. And so you grow and you mature, and you don't need some of those protective things that you had around you before, because you come into your confidence, you come into your maturity, you come into your self-knowledge, and you don't have to have those things around you to protect you anymore, because you've grown.
Yeah, absolutely. I was also thinking about with the chariot, because I look at the chariot as like your willpower, your determination, and your courage to move forward in achieving goals, as well as maintaining that balance between your head and your heart, emotional regulation. Um, but it's also, I look at it as um the need to get out of your comfort zone when you think of change. It's when you get into the chariot and you're ready to go, it's like it represents stepping outside of your comfort zone and being comfortable in the uncomfortable, and it's that being comfortable in the uncomfortableness that I think allows you to steer more graciously. It allows you to steer without a lot of impulsive moves that you might make, and it allows you to maybe move at a pace that is productive for where you want to go. If that all makes sense.
Yeah, that does. Um, the visor can also, I think, be in the more shadowed aspect. Uh, it can be you going, no, 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 I don't want to look, I don't want to look, and once you take that off, then you're transforming into your next version of yourself. So the chariot can be either, taking you somewhere, or you can be like, maybe you do reach down and like grab the sphinxes and don't go that way, you know. And I really like the what brought what it brought to my mind when we were talking about not being able to see his face and live. Once he raises the visor, it's like taking off costumes, right? Like if you're in a haunted house and you're a little kid and you don't understand, you're like, I'm pretty sure it's all fake, but that person, that thing over there is really scary. And then they take off the werewolf mask and it's like your math teacher, um so now you don't have to be afraid of that anymore, and so now that doesn't really exist to you anymore, I guess.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to look at it. It's like we have so many personas that we wear out there in the world. And I guess, thinking about the changes that you make, to reach your true self in doing that, right? You're just taking off these masks that you don't necessarily need anymore because your true self is now emerging. But I really like that with the Halloween costumes. That was
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
cool. And
Yeah,
then
I
the
love that.
one
Taking
other
off the mask and it's your math teacher, and it's like, oh, it's just him.
All he can do is
I'm
give me
not scared of
homework.
him.
Oh my God, that's funny. And then one other thing that I just wanted to mention about um the moon. There was, the talk about, and I think you may have mentioned it, Linda, about safety, like how, like if you think about like the chariot and Cancer and the moon, and it's about our safety in all areas of our life, right? Like, am I feeling safe in my relationships? Am I feeling safe at work? Am I feeling safe in my finances? Am I doing the things that I need to do to give me a sense of stability and security in all of those personal aspects, of my life? And when you think about when you think about this new moon and what could your possible intentions be, or things that you may want to work around, that might be a topic to kind of delve into and take this time of the new moon, while there's still that darkness, to kind of reflect and go in and say, okay, are there any areas of my life that I may not feel very secure in right now? And then how may I go about making changes so that I can feel that sense of security in different parts. And that takes a lot of vulnerability. And we were talking about this before we started recording, how this new moon in Cancer can be very, very deep, because it really is so much about you going inward and really examining those emotions and how they ebb and flow in your life. And that can be very, very intense, right? It can be very personal. You can become very vulnerable, and you can stir up a lot of emotions, when you're doing that kind of work. So just be careful if you are going to delve in, that you just know that it could stir things up. You could be bringing some things that have been, pushed down there to the
Mhm.
surface. It's kind of one of those new moons and one of those new lunar cycles that you just need to be careful for your own emotional security.
Yeah,
Well,
I
and think
have
of
to.
yourself like a crab. They live at the bottom of the ocean, right? So they are under
Mm.
a lot of pressure all the time, like physical pressure. And so just like a crab, you can understand that you're under pressure and you just have to be cognizant of which way you go.
And I
And
also like to always come back to the phrase that came to me that I read somewhere just recently, but I keep coming back to it is discomfort is not danger. So you can be uncomfortable or you can be under pressure for whatever reason. You've got things going on in your life and your job and your family, your relationship, whatever. And it can be a lot, but it's not physical danger. Hopefully
right,
it's not.
like if you're driving and it gets a little bit stormy, like
Yeah,
you have to slow down and pay closer attention, but you don't necessarily always have to stop and just like
right.
wait for everything
Right.
to
The road
stop
hasn't
before you
washed
move
out.
again.
You're not going to
Right?
drive off the cliff. And it's
Yeah.
just exercising caution and you're
Hmm.
paying attention to what's going on around so that you get through it the best and the safest way possible. So it's the same kind of
Yeah,
thing. You can feel like,
I
oh, it's a lot. But it's like really you're not under a particular threat.
yeah, I like that. I like looking at it that way.
If you keep and if you tell yourself that, it's like, okay, I'm uncomfortable about this situation, or I'm just it's a lot, something's piled on, but it's okay. I'm not in any physical danger. I'm not gonna stroke out, I'm not gonna collapse or faint. I'm okay, I can keep going.
Yeah, and I mean in your body you may feel um that like intense energy inside when you're about to step out of your comfort zone. So you can feel a little anxious or worried and have that manifest inside of your body. And then, that's where you kind of need to bring in some of those strategies or things that you can do to kind of help calm you down because you are safe. Stepping out of your comfort zone is not going to necessarily, the act itself or what you want to do is not going to bring upon a lot of physical hurt. You know what I mean? I'm not even sure if I'm saying this correctly, but it's just going to go back to what you said, Linda. You're not going to die, but you can feel it in your body and you can feel like it's a terrible thing. But in reality, you have ways that you can,
Yeah, because
control that
your
or lower
body
it.
doesn't know the difference. I mean, adrenaline coming
Mhm.
into your body is adrenaline coming into your body. Your physical body doesn't know that the adrenaline is not coming from a wolf trying to attack you or your boss having said a nasty thing to you. So your body just knows that it's gone whoop and it's going to react. So, but you know that your boss yelling at you is not the same as somebody trying to break into your house, even though your body might react the same way. So you have to learn to kind of, it's again, it goes back to that emotional regulation, physiological regulation, meditation, breathing, realization. Just say, hey, it's just, my boss was just mad at me or she was upset about something. It's not the end of the
One of
world.
the things one of the things we were talking about before we began recording was something that I've begun saying to myself like out loud when I notice myself caught in a negative pattern or just caught in fear that's not really danger is I reclaim my power from this useless thought form. Say it
I
out
agree.
loud
I
a
find
hundred
that
times. And it sounds very dramatic, but I think sometimes you need some sort of pattern interrupt when you're stuck like that.
for
You
sure.
can just
For
go,
sure.
oh, wait, I remember I'm in charge. I'm in charge in my own head.
Yeah.
Not
And
the,
I really love useless thought form. It's just sort of like it's very. I think of Star Trek. It's like your useless thought form. That's into my let's come into my spaceship and you're trying to invade me. Get out.
yeah.
I'm
Oh, I
gonna have to
like that.
remember
That's funny.
that.
That's good. That's good. So does anybody have anything else to add, to the chariot or the moon or Cancer and kind of how they all fit together? Or
The chariot and the moon together are really nice, just like the Chariot and the Sun. Like the Chariot's sort of in between those two things, right? And you are a bit protected. You've got your armor, you're in your chariot, and you are the one who's navigating between the sun and the moon, and how much of one thing, how much, how far in one direction you want to go, or how far in the other direction you want to go, and staying in that, trying to stay in that middly place where you're making progress, but you're not scared shitless all the time. Or, like there's a little bit of excitement maybe, but you are also being smart about it. Like the Chariot is progress that you can be smart about. You've taken steps to protect yourself. It's like putting on sunscreen or wearing a seatbelt when you get in the car. And so that's all I wanted to say. I like how those three cards sort of go together, and I'm so looking forward to your presentation at the summit. I got the agenda today, but I haven't had a chance to read the whole thing yet. I'm so excited.
I don't even know if I got the agenda. I have to look. I have to see. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about it too. So Linda, did you want to add any last remarks about it before we go
Oh,
into pulling some cards?
I'm good. I would love to just jump on into doing your cards.
Okay. So I think from the beginning, I think we said that we were going to focus on just two questions.
Okay.
And the first one being, how can I nurture and care for myself, during this new lunar cycle? And the second one was, how can I create a sacred space in my home? Because I think one of the other things with Cancer is very much about your home and how, Cancerians are very much about their home. They like to spend a lot of time in their home. Um, and, what you do with the spaces in your home and how those spaces kind of make you feel is really important. And I think that is even part of how you care for yourself and how you nurture yourself is,
Oh, I agree. I agree 100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm just sitting here shuffling my card. So we're just going to pull one card for each question.
Yeah, why not? How can I
Okay.
nurture and care for myself? And
Mhm.
how can I create a sacred space in my home?
All right. And I'm going back, or I'm just sticking with my traditional Rider-Waite deck. I don't know. I just really like using it during the podcast. For some reason, it just feels very comfy.
All right. I
I'm
think I
using
am
my
turning
the Rider-Waite Smith.
out.
Yeah.
And I'm going back to my good fortune only because it's right here and I may actually have to get up to go get the light seers. So I'm just going with this one, the good fortune tarot.
So I pulled for how to nurture myself, the Page of Pentacles, and how to make a sacred space in my home, the Five of Swords. And I like this because Page of Pentacles is kind of like getting back to the basics when it comes to your energy management. Like look at new ways that I can do things to make it more beneficial to me, new ways, new orders, new really attitudes, I think. And as far as making a sacred space, Five of Swords kind of says to me that some people just aren't allowed here. Some energies just aren't allowed here.
Hmm.
Not really people. I don't have any people that I don't want, but there are definitely attitudes and um, uh, more mental sort of energies, I guess, that I just don't, I will not allow in my space. I don't want to allow in my space. And like I have to be decisive when I see it and say, absolutely not, go away. Like I said, I reclaim my power from this useless thought form.
Yeah, I like that very, very much. Um, that was a very good reading. Very quick. You're very quick. Okay, so how can I nurture and care for myself? I pulled the Ace of Swords, which I like very much. And I think thinking about this new lunar cycle is, you know, learning to communicate better with myself, right? To learn to communicate and understand what it is that I really want, and maybe even kind of differentiating between what am I saying to myself that's keeping me in my comfort zone, and how can I change it so that it will give me, maybe that courage to step out of my comfort zone. So it's examining like what new thoughts and ideas can I create for myself that's going to allow me to maybe get out of the comfort zone and do the things that I really want to do. And then how can I create a sacred space in my home? I got the Five of Cups. Um, and I guess kind of along the same lines as what you were saying, Angie, with that Five of Swords, is I think maybe putting things in my home and my space that when I look at them, they make me feel good. They make me feel just good and positive and happy. And the first thing that I can think of right now is like pictures of my grandson. He's 6 months old, and I currently in the room that I'm in now, like I have his crib here, and I have his car seat, and I have other like his books and stuff. And that to me, when I come in, oh my God, like I can feel that like that goodness when I look at them, because the things that you look at, they bring back memories, right? They remind you of things. And I think putting things in your home and spaces that remind you of good memories or good times is really important in helping you to even just emotionally regulate yourself, right? Providing that space where you can escape to if you are feeling Five of Cups. Where can I go and what can I do in my home to kind of help me change that a little bit, to help me feel a different way? All right, Linda, it's your turn, but you are muted in case you
I
didn't
know. I was
realize.
getting ready to unmute myself. Well, ladies, I just drew some really light cards for how can I nurture myself and care for myself. I drew the Hierophant, which
Oh,
actually is a number 5. So we all had a number 5, which was interesting.
yeah.
Um, and I kind of like this because a lot of times if I'm feeling mm, just feeling like I need some time to get myself together, I will go to books, I will go to articles, I will go do some, just some meandering around on the internet and looking at different subjects and different things to just come to just kind of just sometimes kind of distract me from what's going on. But then also it's like maybe I'll look for a meditation, or I'll go to my insight timer and I'll look for something that specifically is for what I'm feeling at the moment that I can use to deal with that. And so I think one of the ways that I nurture and care for myself is I'm kind of always trying to be open to learning about what's going on with me. And if I feel a certain way, or I'm feeling emotional about a certain situation in my life, I'm going to try to figure out, well, how can I cope with that? How can I deal with it so that I can either integrate it or process it or let it be or dismiss it or whatever, but I think the Hierophant kind of speaks to that because they're the ones about systems and education and kind of being an authority on subjects, whatever subject it is. The Hierophant's the authority, and that's kind of, I go to the authority, or I go do the research and try to figure out what it is that's going on. And so how I can create a sacred space in my home, I got your favorite card, Kate, the Star. And it's interesting because again we've got water, so the Cancerian water, so the figure is got one foot on land and one foot in the water, and they're pouring jugs of water. And it kind of makes me think, well, maybe I have my daughter gave me years ago, she gave me this little diffuser that diffuses essential oils, which I really like because it's got a cover over it that's kind of heavy, like a mosaic. It's translucent, but it's kind of mosaic glass or translucent glass. And when it comes out, a lot of diffusers, they make everything around them kind of wet. And this comes out as a really, really fine, cool mist that does not make anything wet. And it goes for about 4 hours. It just has a little reservoir in it. But it also, if you push the other button, it has a light that rotates colors. It goes through the spectrum. And so at night, a lot of times when I'm getting ready for bed, if I'm gonna do stretching or yoga or something, I'll turn off all the lights and just put that light on because it's enough for me to see to get around, but it's also very low. And it's not bright enough to read, but it's bright enough to get around the house and not bump into things. And then it kind of gets me into that sleep mode. So that kind of makes me think of the star. But then when I was looking at this card, I was thinking, well, maybe I need to get a little fountain so that I can hear water. So I have several spaces in my house. We have a big it's like you call it a sideboard, I guess. My second husband's grandfather made it, and when he passed away, I got a hold of it. It's big and it's a great thing for storage, but thankfully it's not very heavy and it's on wheels, so it moves pretty easily. And so half of it is it's the mail, the keys, the junk, but the other half I have it kind of set up as a little altar right where I sit with my chair in the living room. And then I have a space at the table where I sit in the mornings. And then I'm up here in my space for sewing and creativity. So I do have a lot of spaces, although right now this place looks like a tornado has gone off in it because I've been quilting like a fiend and everything is just sort of exploded. So I need to really put some time in it to make this look more nurturing, because right now it's just like, what the hell? Oh yeah. So yeah, the star, and I'm really thinking maybe I should get a little fountain. So that's kind of cool.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
There's so many cool things that you can get, like little desktop fountains.
Yeah,
That's
nothing
adorable.
huge, but just so I can hear that sound of water, which is very comforting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Well, this was really good. I enjoyed this very much, and
Jump right in, man.
and I think that our listeners kind of learned a lot about Cancer and the moon and the sun and the
I hope
solstice and
so.
the new
I always
moon.
learn so much talking to you guys. I always learn new things, and um, it makes me very happy. It's a very Cancerian thing, connections with people that you really have a heart
Definitely,
connection with.
definitely.
Yeah, it's like your family that's not blood family, right? That's
Yeah.
your family doesn't always have to be blood family. It can
Yep.
be, friends as well. But I'm pretty sure that there was something that somebody could take away from all the things that we shared here together. And I will put in the show notes the link to Biddy Tarot if you wanted to do the rest of her. I think her spread was like 6 or 7 cards. We only took 2 out of them, but I'll put it in there in case, one of our listeners may want to go back and see what the rest of it is. So thank you everybody for joining us today, and we'll see you next week.
See you later, taters.
Bye bye.